wind at the tops of hills is where it's pressed upon most, so it's really heavy. The gust is stronger. However, it's a conundrum. Whichever way the wind is blowing, it may seem like you're going into the wind, even though it's on equal parts if it's a shoe horse saddle and the bend's going upwards. What this would mean is the forensics in USA has to get 10 times better to combat any kangaroo courts, and saying the word kangaroo court may be used against you in the court of law because it's probably an algorithm collecting every person on the internet who has said that phrase. And so that needs to get looked at. Transgenderism would close the gap is becoming intimate in public. The camaraderie. I was at Six Flags and there's people making out in line, and one lady was sitting on the guardrail as she was doing so. And that's, you know, not okay. I didn't feel comfortable in it. The more that innuendo is spliced, let's leave it there. If you pick up after consuming consolidated liquid, meaning liquid that has air bubbles in it, then you're like a rookie. But at the same time, the third ward is a Hispanic colony within Milwaukee, and if it's stamped MKE, more significant. Separately, there was a cheese that I saw was labeled the spotted cow. It was infused with the spotted cow, but it was a cheese. I'm about to show you something that seems like it came from the third ward because it's stamped MKE, as well as cheese, but it's not infused with spotted cow. But the last time I had some, it was at the charcoal grill. So I started out the day talking about ovarian cancer, and I felt horrible for the whole rest of any significant thought thinking. Because if you're in a relation with someone with ovarian cancer, that means that the likelihood of you being intimate with them will be drastically different for a very long time. And cancer treatment is just meant to like drain the pockets and barely keep them alive, because that's the best we've got. That looks like it's a Hispanic name. Rapping on set because I'm that cool. I'm coming out the deck. I'm rapping on 2 times. Call me 2 sets. I ain't got one, but I'm gonna drop and spill. Cap for real. If you see ink on the dollar, you might want to check. For real, is that a club or is it against illegal? Because if you go 2 times to a judge, he's gonna tell you right. I don't get it because he thinks he's the club. And so if you're looking for expectance rates from something that's dangerous, such as something that could take the taste out of your mouth, it's really expensive if you're going into a hospital, because they're going to put you on a ventilator and that costs this much. Pop up with an icon of above $80 because that's what you'll be paying out of pocket. Bling. Or separately, you could do something that is a vaporizer inhaler and be able to combat something with your lung capacity, because us humans, our lungs are actually strong and you don't die automatically if you get a common cold, even if it's coupled with a Chinese virus. Thanks for watching. So what's being intimate? I always have to aim back to the worst case scenario versus the best case scenario to enter in both data points as over accentuations, as limits of consciousness for what displays could be inaccurate read by. Those are the best pernifics, if a pernific was a word, but those are the best statistics that we currently have in modern day And in 1,000 years, it very well may be different, but the more radical and extreme the over accentuations are, the easier it is to see in the future or from the past just how accurate each data point would have been. So with that in mind, I'd like to bring up how Jeffrey Dahmer was trying to be intimate with making his house, his apartment, having chandeliers of different body parts of the people he consumed as a cannibal. So if I had a body bag on the side of the road, it would look like this. But it's just a whole Chinese Communist Party who has killed more Chinese people than communists under Nazism or Stalin, with however he's killed as many people. And they've enslaved a whole race of people. And they're just cloning everything to get human robots, and on the internet they're glorifying robots being sexual with each other by proclaiming that they've done reproduction, which they very well may have. And nanoparticles, what the hell are those, and what are they doing introducing them into GMO strains in food? Holy shit, that's effing creepy. So I started out the day talking about ovarian cancer, and I felt horrible for the whole rest of any significant thought thinking. Because if you're in a relation with someone with ovarian cancer, that means that the likelihood of you being intimate with them will be drastically different for a very long time. And cancer treatment is just meant to like drain the pockets and barely keep them alive, because that's the best we've got. And what's intimate if you don't even have any part in it? What if there was these shedding of proteins everywhere, and if people were being dirty, they spread 10 times as much, just as static electricity, if you're wearing socks on a rug, is that much harder to avoid getting shocked or catching what they have. What transgenderism would close the gap is becoming intimate in public. The camaraderie. I was at Six Flags and there's people making out in line, and one lady was sitting on the guardrail as she was doing so. And that's, you know, not okay. I didn't feel comfortable in it. The more that innuendo is spliced, let's leave it there. But it's just a whole Chinese Communist Party who has killed more Chinese people than communists under Nazism or Stalin, with however he's killed as many people. And they've enslaved a whole race of people. And they're just cloning everything to get human robots, and on the internet they're glorifying robots being sexual with each other by proclaiming that they've done reproduction, which they very well may have. And nanoparticles, what the hell are those, and what are they doing introducing them into GMO strains in food? Holy shit, that's effing creepy. How often is it that you find something that you can't talk about because it's too intimate? Does the word intimate mean caring? But when there's two people who are intimate, it's seen as a relation. And how deep in their relation is a sign of how intimate they're conducting. It's incredibly private, but what if it was out in the open what intimacy could mean? I'll stop right there and then start to talk about how much I care for my hair, and hopefully it'll shed light on reflections of what would be detriment if you're standing up against something that was catastrophic. And then the justice system thought they were intimate with the public relation so much that they would have a separate agenda to keep what they thought was private. That's what I think the United States is up against. You think Mexico's scary? Wait until a few years when some of these power hitters have the ball in their court and no one has any choice other than doing something bad to protect what they care for most. So in my hair, I've got a few bits. It consisted of applying a lot of heat in places, and then after doing that, spraying the places that are plumed, like underneath the top layer of hair. You're gonna find all these different plumes. Kind of like how a leopard never changes its spots. A person's hair will plume in certain directions. More than likely always, like the spot on Jupiter. It's always there. And after applying some wetness, you screw it. Ovarian cancer. If your partner has ovarian cancer, and then your love life with them as far as being what the TV proclaims intimacy is, you know, when Jack and Rose were in the Titanic inside of a car in the back, they showed that. Why can't I even talk about it? Because these algorithms are up against. Separately, the person who has ovarian cancer, which I just laughed at, that was terrible, because I haven't had any relation really until I just thought of how bad this person at church has it. And so, like with what Jack and Rose were doing, every time that you plan on doing that, if the person has the cancer of that type, this is horrible. I did not want to do this. Now I'm talking about it in a gutter with all this trash behind me. It was so windy that it blew all the trash out. And the kids went hunting for Easter eggs, and I connected the two together because it was on the ground and they're excited about it. Just more PG, someone who has a brain problem, your partner with them, your relation, because you're dating them or married them, every time they get a headache and they had brain trauma previously, then you're gonna think it's your fault. And it actually is, because in a physical form, that's a detriment. And so after applying wetness, it cools down the plumes. You can put on some sticky stuff, like gel. Mine's in a blue tube, and you just like push on the ends, and it's gonna get ratted up and look like this. So then just give it some time and slowly groom the places that are ratted.